Okay, it's gone.
Coming up, she's a USA Today best-selling author who writes one series that takes place in historic Deadwood. Ahead of her annual fan party held in that town, we'll talk with her next about the exhilarating series because she's here to say, "Good morning, Black Hills."
Okay. Yep.
Charles is a USA Today best-selling author who writes award-winning mysteries that are splashed with humor, romance, paranormal, and whatever else sounds like fun. She writes 3 different series, 5, but one takes place right there in the Black Hills, right here where we are. She's here ahead of her annual fan party held in Deadwood, and I'm happy to say, good morning again, Charles. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I am so happy that you're here. Ahead of your fan party, you have a bunch of series out. I made a correction here because I talked to you before the show. You have 5 series now,
right.
4 that interlock, but one is concentrated all on Deadwood. And why Deadwood?
Actually, there's 2 on Deadwood now. It's something that's changed. We have the Deadwood Undertaker series that I write with my husband. That's Old West Deadwood.
That's new. That's coming up.
We have 2 out just in the last year. But otherwise, it's still Deadwood. Same Deadwood, only 1870s Deadwood. But why Deadwood? Well, I moved here in the 80s. We were just talking about with my mom and stepdad. Spent lots of summers here, lots of holidays here. Hung out down on the street in Deadwood before it was gambling, back when it was tourist town.
Yeah.
My mom worked at one of the stores, and I'd come to town with her and hang out all day, and I'd go to the Adams Museum because it was air-conditioned, and they would let me in there, and as long as I kept busy looking at exhibits.
The same thing when I was a kid. I went to the Adams Museum because it was air-conditioned.
I know, right?
We didn't have air-conditioning in my home.
I know, it was so hot sometimes. So, yeah, they would let me read the exhibits, so I really started getting into the history of Deadwood way back then. Yeah. And then we would explore back in the hills and enjoy some of the history, the gold mines, the ghost towns, the old structures. So just spent so much time having fun in Deadwood and Black Hills.
It's a beautiful place. I'm so glad, and you captivated so well. I haven't read the books, but I've read some little snippets. You changed the names of the locations in your book, Anne. You tell in Deadwood, which I love. That's your artistic freedom there. It looks a little different, but what was with the intention of that? I think I have a map pulling up here for my producer. There it is.
Oh, yes.
So one of that was the Calamity Jane Realty. That's different. The Bighorn Billies. Some of these, they just go along in your book. Is that creative license, or did you have any reason behind that?
Well, I've had a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, use my house for, we have ghosts. Use our house in it." And same with some buildings, and that's really great if it's, a private building, and I'd love to. However, when people start stopping in front of your house so many times after a while pointing at it, and then let's say you sell it and move, and the new owners say, "I really don't like all these strangers stopping in front of my house and walking around and looking at stuff, wondering about it." So I tried to keep that in mind from the beginning, that I would use public buildings like the rec center and the Deadwood Library. Anything that was public, I would use the actual name and the building, true to itself for the most part. Otherwise, I was going to use locations that were really there, but make them fiction.
Yeah, well, if a best-selling author is writing about your house, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world.
Right.
We have a bunch of your series right here. In your Deadwood series, one of your characters is a single mom raising children, and there's also a pet chicken named Elvis.
Elvis the chicken, yes. A girl.
You come up with these details. Is there some truth to this fiction?
I have not had a chicken pet. We did, I was raised on a farm. We did have chickens, but I do not have a chicken. I have 4 cats. I am a cat lady, I guess, already.
Okay.
Some things, I just had this vision at the time when I wrote that when I introduced Elvis, of this little girl riding down Deadwood's, one of the side streets, holding a chicken, she's on her bike, and feathers flying, and her mother chasing her, going, "Get back here with that chicken. You can't keep the chicken." And Addie, her daughter, loves animals, so she just collects things like that. So that was the start. And Elvis wasn't supposed to be, a recurring character necessarily, but Elvis is very popular, and I get wonderful chicken gifts and cards and stuff a lot from fans, which is so fun.
Your fans love it.
I love it, yeah, and they love Elvis.
Listen, Anne, you're a self-published author. Acclaimed success in many platforms, including the New York Times and USA Today. Most people, I suppose, would say that this isn't an orthodox way of going about it. Usually those big publishing houses are the normal way.
Right.
So you climbed the ladder in a different way. So what advice would you have for aspiring authors out there who are thinking about doing the same thing?
Perseverance. You are an entrepreneur, and you have to think like that. You have to not give up. You have to keep pushing. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and ask. You know, the worst someone can say is no if you want, to try and work with a different distributor or something like that. But it comes down to just, I don't give up. I just keep going and plowing forward. I hit my head against the wall many, many, many times, but I keep hitting my head until I go through the wall. So just keep trying. It's not easy, but, there's wonderful readers out there that want to support authors, so don't give up.
Well, we are so happy that you came on Good Morning Black Hills and are talking about this beautiful series. I've noticed that you're all wearing purple,
yes,
as their main character does.
Yes.
Very significant. And Charles is a USA Today best-selling author and for New York Times. Ahead of her fan party here in Deadwood, which is June 25th to the 28th.
Yes.
Thank you, Anne, for being on Good Morning Black Hills.
Thank you for having me.